Well, good morning, everybody. It's good to be here at the SES headquarters in Wollongong, joined by Commissioner Mike Wassing, and also special thanks to Paula, who's helping us with Auslan translation. We'll provide an update on what the current situation is, and the Commissioner will also then talk about some of the logistical elements. But in a nutshell, over the past 24 hours, there has been 284 rescues, flood rescues, in that Mid North Coast and Hunter area of New South Wales. So in the past 24 hours, 284 rescues. Since midnight alone, there's been 150 rescues that have been undertaken. We have seen an enormous amount of rainfall over the Hunter and the Mid North Coast area, with falls of up to 280 millimetres in parts. We expect that today's weather will also continue, with predictions of between 150 and 200 millimetres, particularly in that Mid-North Coast area. And what we are also seeing is a movement of that rain band further north, starting to impact into southern parts around the Coffs Harbour area. What we have got also out there at the moment, I touched on this yesterday, is there are 1,600 plus volunteers from the SES, and they are joined also by people from different agencies. And in that sense, we've got 20 flood rescue teams that are made up of multi-agencies, so other agencies that are also trained in flood rescue, and 24 teams of SES flood rescue capability specialists. We've also got more teams on there. We've got 5 helicopters in the air at the moment, with another 4 on their way. And what we're seeing is a really clear example of throwing every single thing that we've got at this event. I want to thank not only the SES volunteers, members of the SES, but also other agencies. The ADF also responded to a request and have provided assistance that's on its way in addition to that. We've got a situation here where the rain really has been falling quite heavily and quite hard, and it hasn't been moving away. Part of that is because the ground is so saturated. Another part is also because the rivers are swollen. We've been very clear in terms of giving information to communities and getting that information out quickly. And again, I would remind people that the best source of information is the SES. So look at their websites, their Facebook page, official SES ones, the Bureau of Meteorology, as well as, of course, our Hazards Near Me app. And to that point, we've seen a number of different warnings that are in place. There are many warnings that are in place at the moment, and they range from prepare to evacuate, to an evacuate, to seek higher ground, to as well prepare to isolate, and we are working with those individual communities. Now, when it comes to messages about evacuation and preparing to evacuate, we know that sometimes people may not necessarily always see those messages. We found different ways to get those messages through, but these are messages that are designed to give you the latest up-to-date information in terms of staying safe, and in terms of being able to be in a position where hopefully people don't have to come to rescue you. This is a really important one, and we understand that for whatever reason, people may not necessarily have heeded those calls. But could I say this really clearly? The messages that are sent out through the emergency services are designed specifically to keep communities safe, to keep individuals safe, and to give the most up-to-date information that we have. I would urge everybody to heed those calls and make sure that they have that planning. I would also be encouraging people in advance to start planning and to start thinking about it. And for those people at the moment who are isolated, for those people who are waiting on rescues, we're throwing everything that we have into ensuring that we can get these rescues undertaken. We've seen images, of course, of people who are on roofs. They are the absolute priority, and there's been over 16 rescues just since first light this morning, and it is an absolute priority for us and something that we are working on, the SES and all the other agencies are working on, and of course many of those, the way to do that is through an air response, so we continue with that. But can I again thank people for heeding the messages, for following the instructions, for being kept up to date, and also for making sure that they do things like avoid driving through floodwaters. For those people who are waiting to be rescued, we know that this takes time. We are working on it. It is an absolute priority to get you there. We ask you to continue being patient. We will make sure that we get to each person. We're doing the very best that we can across all of those different agencies. These are a priority for us. The communities have seen an enormous amount of rain. We've seen more rain into the Manning River. Sorry. We've seen record level rains and flooding of the Manning River. And this is having an impact on, of course, the emergency services. We're seeing a number of rescues take place. Some of those rescues we know about. Some, of course, we discover as we move into particular streets where somebody had been waiting and had not made contact. Be patient with us. You are a priority for us, and we will get to you. I might hand over to Commissioner Wassing, who will give a more specific update about the operation itself. Commissioner.
Sorry, Commissioner. Thank you. To supplement what the Minister's already indicated, we have significant amounts of rainfall, 200 to 300 millimetres of rain that we've already experienced in the Hunter and the Mid North Coast. We're expecting from the Bureau's indications and predictions that there is another 24 to 48 hours of this rainfall, again of a similar amount, approximately 200 millimetres of rain. They'll continue to create localised flash flooding. Any low-lying areas will be seeing flooding as well. And this system is slowly moving to the north. So what we had 24 hours ago was on the Hunter area, then it's moved to the Mid North Coast and it's slowly moving into the northeast. Our deployments and our capabilities are moving associated with that. Our focus at the moment is very much in the Taree, South Taree, Glenthorne areas, as well as up to Coffs Harbour. That's where we currently have overnight significant operations in terms of rescue operations and as well as associated support. As we've already heard, we've got significant numbers of helicopters, 9 helicopters in total that are working in that area, and we'll supplement that as necessary if we need to. We've also got multiple SES teams and other multi-agency teams, and that makes up a total of 44 rescue teams. They're very active in the space at the moment. There have been situations overnight where we're unable to access people, either by air or through water, but these are highly trained volunteers and staff from all of the agencies that are doing their best and continue to reach out to any calls of support and rescue. We are prioritising those rescue operations, as you've heard from the Minister, in terms of we do know we've got people on roofs, we're in contact with most of those people, and we're prioritising, continue to prioritise the greatest requirements of those rescue operations, and will continue to do so. In addition to that, what we are planning for, and we've got additional resources coming in, both from the Australian Defence Force in terms of the form of a helicopter, 2 helicopters to support us, but we've also got additional support coming from other states, both in terms of planning, specific flood intelligence officers, and recognising the weather continues into the later end of the week and into the northeast, and potentially further weather into next week. We're also planning for those factors as well in terms of further pre-deployment, further resourcing requirements. There's an enormous strain on our people, but they continue to be very focused in terms of what they are doing within their local communities, and I applaud all of the emergency services that are out there day in and day out in terms of the current operations. I think that the key message, as we've already heard, really is if you're in places that are isolated but not experiencing impact from floodwaters, please be patient if you need to get out. You will, in some cases, those floodwaters will rise and fall very quickly. In the areas like Taree, typically what we see in the flood areas for Taree area in terms of isolation might be only approximately a day. In other locations, it could be anything up to a week. Those communities that suffer that isolation but are in higher ground know that, they've planned for that. We've been engaging with these communities well prior to these floods arriving. We've had the evacuation orders out, but now today is very much our focus in terms of the rescue operations, and we're asking people to work with us, make sure that there's no further rescue operations in terms of people travelling on roads, so our resources can be very much focused in terms of where they need to be for the people that are currently in areas of need. Again, in that Coffs Harbour area, through to South Taree and Glenthorne areas as well. Happy to take any questions from there.
When you talk about the system moving north, are you expecting, just in terms of the rainfall, another 200 to 300 mils on those already existing affected communities, additionally to it, that system moving north as well?
What we're certainly seeing is some of that continued rainfall. This is a very slow moving rain band. So in the next 24 hours, we were potentially seeing that continued rainfall in the areas. It has moved slightly to the north. We're starting to see that impact into the Coffs Harbour. And then beyond that, the potential rainfall into the northeast. Those figures at the moment, we regularly work with the Bureau on a regular basis throughout the day and night to make sure that that's monitored. That informs, along with our intelligence officers, in terms of where the potential flooding is. What we've effectively got are catchments that are super saturated already. So whether it's 200 millimetres or 250 or 150, what we're going to see is effectively certainly localised flash flooding, certainly low-lying areas that will flood. And that's, again, the key message is to stay informed. The Hazards Near Me app is the primary focus of that. These messages and the warnings are very localised. It's based on all the planning and intelligence work that we've done with local communities, local councils and our own people before the event, and now we're applying that in real time.
From what your crews are telling you on the ground, it's such a beautiful part of the state with so many valleys, though. How fast is the flash flooding occurring? What's the sort of rapid nature of this emergency?
What we're seeing really is the flash flooding is occurring very much in the terms of there's a broad rain band of approximately 100 to 150 millimetres of rain, and then within pockets of that rain band, we're seeing the heavier falls of 200 or 250 rain. Well, it's that localised embedded rainfall that causes the flash flooding, and then the cumulative rainfall is where we see in terms of what we call riverine flooding, but that's that broader systems piece where people are more familiar with in terms of their typical flooding in terms of the raising of the rivers like the Manning, like the Hastings.
100 rescues is an extraordinary number. Must be a lot of pressure on the volunteers. What's the nature of the rescues are you performing? Are they from vehicles? Are they from roofs? Can you tell me some of those examples?
Certainly, it is a significant number of flood rescues. We've got highly trained flood rescue technicians that are volunteers that are also staff both in SES as well as Fire Rescue, Volunteer Rescue Association, multiple services. Then we've all got all the support capabilities that making sure that those people are looked after when they are evacuated or rescued. We're seeing rescues ranging from last night. We had large numbers of rescues of people driving through floodwaters on the Pacific Highway. We had 24 in one specific location. We've also had a number of animal rescues that acknowledging that a lot of these areas have either livestock or horses or other large animals. So some of our flood rescues have been associated with that. Some of them have been associated with medical episodes, so getting paramedics in and patients out. But our primary focus at the moment is very much about people that are in the emergency warning area that commenced yesterday, and our focus for those people that are stuck in those floodwaters, particularly in their homes that are now being inundated in many cases. That's our focus at the moment, and that's where most of our rescues this morning and into the rest of the day are primarily focused.
Is there any particular region that's been most affected, community that has really borne the brunt of this? How many homes have been inundated?
Yes, so we're talking significant numbers of homes. It really is in that South Taree and Glenthorne areas. It's basically these homes are very close to the Manning River, and so what we've seen is the significant increase in the flooding. As we've seen, what we're seeing is record floods in terms of the Manning River. Previous records were back in the 1920s, so we're talking significant rainfall. That flooding, I wouldn't say it's peaked, but it's certainly plateaued in terms of the 6.3 metre level. So we're not seeing current rises, but we're watching that very closely. But the homes that are inundated is our current focus in terms of prioritisation. And some of that prioritisation is obviously focused in terms of the people that are actually on roofs, or in other cases might be on their second story of their home, but quite safe. We'll prioritise that. We're also very conscious of some members of our community that are vulnerable, whether it be the aged, infirm or otherwise. And so again, we're in close contact with each of the operators in community members in terms of making sure that we can continue to prioritise our efforts.
You won't know the peak though for some 24 hours or more, really. You won't know that until the rain finishes its mission.
It is an evolving situation, so that's why we sort of can't say that it's at a peak level at this stage. The flooding has certainly plateaued, and effectively what that means is we're not seeing further increases or rises in the current flooding. So that's a good thing for us. But how long that stays is largely dependent on how much rainfall continues to fall and how slow or fast the system moves.
Can you talk to, is the ADF on the ground at the moment and what they'll be doing in supporting your teams?
The ADF, at the moment we don't have any requirements for ADF on the ground. We've certainly got ADF personnel in the air, if you will, in terms of the form of helicopters. They're helping currently with Pol Air, as well as a whole lot of pre-deployed aircraft that we had in the area that are actively working in terms of our rescue operations from the air. We're effectively tackling these rescues from the water with our specialist technicians, flood rescue technicians, as well as from the air.
Do you need any more support at this stage?
I'm very comfortable that we've got adequate resources. What I'm really asking is the community in other areas where it is raining and there are emerging risks to stay informed, to not create more demand on the system, so we can focus in terms of where our current efforts are.
I guess, Minister, is this being declared an emergency? Have all those sort of procedures been approved?
So natural disaster declaration would usually occur after the response phase. We're still in a response phase at the moment. We've had conversations with local government and the Minister for Recovery. The focus has to be right now on the response. Then we can go through and do an assessment. The Commonwealth is also made aware, and I do know that the Reconstruction Authority has been working with the National NEMA Authority, but at this stage there hasn't been that declaration. We just need to really focus on the response at this point. And the reason I say that is because we've got a track record now of making sure that we do have declarations and support through a state and a Commonwealth perspective, and we have stood shoulder to shoulder with communities. We'll continue to do that, but really my absolute priority at the moment is making sure that the community is safe and that we respond to all incidents as they arise.
Do you know how many homes have been inundated and what the scale of that support will be needed for those people?
Part of the numbers of homes inundated or the impact that it's had on community will be discovered after the response phase. There are areas where water is still covering parts of communities. We don't know the homes, how many of the businesses, for example. So when the water recedes, we'll be able to go through that and do a proper analysis. And of course, there's many different categories of support that will be enacted. But at this stage, we don't have that clear picture, just simply because we've got the unfolding situation, and it's a pretty volatile situation that is continuously evolving. Once water starts to recede, we can also assess the impact of the damage that's been occurred through this.
And so are there evacuation centres open, and are there evacuation centres open, and are there many people in them at the moment?
There are a number of evacuation centres open right across the Hunter and also up into that Mid North Coast area. And people choose to go to an evacuation centre, or some may go to join family, and some will join friends. They want to go to a safe place. The evacuation centre is there as an intention to be a safe place to go to. The latest information that I had was somewhere in the vicinity of about 300 odd people were in evacuation centres. There are multiple centres. There also, anytime an evacuation order is issued, along with that tells the community which is the local evacuation centre to attend. So we've taken all of those contingencies. We're also supplying isolated communities with what it is that they do require. We're maintaining contact with them. We're looking at this from a whole joined up government perspective.